Alright, guys, let's talk about it. Why is it that Nintendo is so expensive? Why do they launch their games at such a high price all the time, even if it's a game that's 15 years old, like Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2? And why is it that they never have permanent price drops on their video games? So many video games right now from the Nintendo Switch still cost like $60. Recently I just bought Kirby Star Allies and Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Both games I would recommend. Both games are pretty fun, especially Return to Dreamland Deluxe. If you guys have never played that, do yourself a favor and drop $60 on that game and play it, because it is totally worth it. Now, back to the topic at hand though. Why are the games always so expensive? People think it's because Nintendo's trying to be the Apple of gaming. They want to be seen as being like, premium gaming. They're the best, they have the highest quality games, and therefore they're gonna make their games expensive. That's what people think, right? And to be fair, Nintendo does have the best games. Their games are way better than whatever garbage is coming from PlayStation, whatever is coming from Xbox, or any other third-party developer out there. That is a fact. They do make the best video games. They are the highest quality video games. Now, I don't think that is the only reason their games are expensive. I think there's way more to it than that. Now, it is worth mentioning that, Xbox and PlayStation don't really price their games that cheap either. I guess the only difference being is that they eventually do a permanent price drop on their video games. They will usually drop the price of their games within a year or two, whereas Nintendo, well, their game could be 5 to 8 years old and it will still freaking be the full price. Okay, so yeah, that is a difference right there, and obviously Nintendo's games do sell way better than the competition, so they do kind of have a right to, keep the prices up there. And there have been situations where Nintendo lowered the price of a game if it wasn't selling well, like, Mario RPG, for example. And if a certain franchise isn't known for selling that well, they will release a new game or a remastered of that game, usually for maybe, $50 or $40. That's what they did with Metroid Prime Remastered. If you guys don't remember, Metroid Prime Remastered is only $40. Alright? And some people were confused by that. Some people actually kind of complained about that, like, why are you only making that game $40 and other games is like $60 or $70? Well, because the original didn't sell that well. Therefore, they don't think that a lot of people are gonna buy the remastered version, so they sell it for a lower price. Okay? That's typically, common business sense 101. But regardless, it is true that Nintendo tends to be more expensive than the competition. And like I said, I don't think it's just because their games are the best and their games are the best, but I don't think that's the only reason. I don't think that the fact that they have the highest standard of quality makes it to where they feel the need to just charge full price for a lot of these games, even if they're 15-year-old games. Now, to me, Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 are not that expensive. I mean, people complaining about that, okay, well, that's, let's see, $70, so that's like $35 per game, and if you only want one of the games, it's $40. And unfortunately, people have an issue with this and they're crying about that. Nobody had an issue with Gears of War Reloaded being $40, but that's just how hypocritical people are. Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, very high in demand. Lots of people want them, so of course Nintendo's gonna charge a pretty good price for it. But there's another reason why Nintendo prices their games pretty high. Now, look, I'm not an insider when it comes to Nintendo. I don't have any friends that work there or anything of that nature. But I do try to think the way they think. I basically try to understand what it is they could be thinking when they do the things that they do. And I'm basically going to explain why it is Nintendo does this, why it is that they want all of their exclusive games coming out to be priced so high. Now, one of the few people who made a video crying about their prices is none other than Beat 'em Ups. And this guy, let me just tell you, he's a complete phony and a fake ass at times. He might make some good videos here and there, but he's just another one of these guys that wants to get as many views, subscribers, as much as possible. So much so that he actually made a fake video where he basically made a fake, it wasn't even a prediction video, it was a confirmation video. And this was before the Nintendo Partner Showcase that aired not too long ago. That was an absolute disappointment. This freaking idiot made this video just lying about what was going to be announced. And he just, announced all these big, crazy titles or whatever. And so many people, idiots like DocTrey81, actually went into it thinking everything this guy said was true. And of course, what this guy was doing was he was lying on purpose just to get a bunch of, views and likes and all this, and to get the whole internet talking about it. But then he made another video, an excuse video, just in case what he was saying was going to be complete BS and wasn't going to come to fruition. And that's exactly what happened. He waited until the direct aired. It turned out to be a huge disappointment. And then he went ahead and uploaded his video saying he lied about all the other things he said, and that it was just a social experiment and whatever. And he was trying to do all this bullshit like, oh, here's the science behind it. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. You made that bullshit video to get as much attention as possible, and you were also hoping that most of what you said would have been true, but it didn't happen. And so you had your little backup, you had your little excuse where you can say, it was all a lie. I did this as a social experiment. This guy, he's like Australian or something. But anyways, this dude's full of shit. He just wants to get as many views as possible. And this video, 22-minute video of him asking why is everything Nintendo so expensive, he doesn't really say much. All he does is just bitch and moan and doesn't really cry too much, but he's just complaining, and all he's trying to do is pander to the crybabies out there, and that's it. So he didn't really say a whole lot. He just addressed what is going on, how Nintendo is too expensive and he's upset, whatever. Complete nothing burger. Then RGT85 decides to make his own video where it's basically the other guy's video, or thumbnail, I should say, and he just places his ugly mug over his, and he even puts the same title, so why is everything Nintendo so expensive? And in this video, he tries to explain the reasons why, and he calls it a three-headed hydra or something like that. And one of the reasons he said at the very end, he's like, oh, this is going to offend you guys are going to get mad, but the reason why they make their games so expensive is because they know they can get away with it. And I was like, no shit. Now, who do you think is going to be offended by that? Because let me tell you, it's not going to be Nintendo fans. Nintendo fans, I guarantee you, people who are only playing on Nintendo are not complaining about these prices whatsoever. All right? It is people who are playing on multiple consoles. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, that's basically what he says. So he basically just says the obvious or whatever when it comes to why Nintendo makes everything so expensive. And finally, this brings us to John from Spawnwave. Now, his video has a very interesting title here. It says, is Nintendo pricing people out? Is Nintendo pricing people out? And you know what? I do think they are pricing people out. However, the question is, who are they trying to price out, right? And are they really pricing them out? Or is it something else that they're trying to do? Is there more to what they are trying to do when it comes to these prices? And I'm going to get into that in a minute, but one thing, he mentioned in this video regarding Nintendo's prices and whether they're pricing people out is the fact that the game Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, they're already selling like crazy. Their pre-orders are already just, selling like crazy right now. I think they're like at like number, I can't remember. I think they're in the top 5 on Amazon right now when it comes to pre-orders. So even though, people are trying to make a big outrage out of all this, there's a lot of people out there who have zero issues with the pricing. And I'm going to explain why that is. And I'm going to explain why I think Nintendo is trying to price out certain people. Alright, so as I mentioned earlier, the only people who are crying and complaining about the prices of video games these days are multi-console owners. People who own a PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch 2, Xbox, and even a gaming PC. I mean, how many people right now just seem to have, 5 or 6 damn consoles in their game room? And look, that's totally fine if you want to have that many consoles, but when you start complaining that everything is so expensive, well, that's kind of your problem. Nobody forced you to buy that many damn consoles so you could play every single game that there is out there. Since you want to make video games a necessity when it's really just a luxury, it's kind of your problem that, the prices are pretty high for these video games. Now, that being said, I do think that that Nintendo does want to price certain people out. But I don't really think it's so much that they're pricing people out, but rather they're just making it harder for them to spend their money on other video games, on other platforms, because I believe that Nintendo wants you dumbasses to only buy their system and no one else's. Nintendo wants you to buy the Switch, Switch 2, and Nintendo Switch games. That's what they want you to do. Okay? And here's the thing. Nintendo, they're not going to make their video games cheaper just so you asswipes can then use all that extra money to go buy a fucking game on your PlayStation 5. That's what I think this is all about. I think Nintendo sees how there's so many of these multi-console gamers who seem to only really buy exclusives for Nintendo. They only buy Nintendo for the exclusives, and then they'll buy third-party games on every other platform. I've been seeing a lot lately. Okay? A lot of idiots will do that. They'll be like, so many people been begging Nintendo for years to make their system powerful enough to handle these big AAA third-party games, right? But Nintendo has done this, and people are still saying that they're going to buy that third-party game on their other system, on their PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5 Pro, gaming PC, whatever, right? So, it's just so funny how the same idiots who, been wanting Nintendo to be powerful, been wanting Nintendo to get the third-party games, are still going to buy those third-party games on the other platforms. But here's where, this kind of plays into what Nintendo is doing. Nintendo's making their games expensive, so that way it's harder for you dumbasses to spend your money on other games and other consoles. I believe that's what Nintendo's doing, because guess what? Nintendo knows that people who only play on their console and only buy their video games aren't going to have a fucking issue with their prices. And that is a fact. Like I said, Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 is selling out right now like crazy. They're not having any issues selling that game. And you know what? The Switch 2 is selling out like crazy. Not necessarily selling out, but it's the fastest selling console ever, despite all of the bullshit negativity that is online about it. That's because people who primarily play on Nintendo, they're not having an issue with these prices whatsoever. Okay? I only play on Nintendo. I can afford to spend thousands of dollars per year on video games for this system. No problem whatsoever. But that is a problem for the idiots who choose to spend their money on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, gaming, and all that other shit, when all you really need is Nintendo. So, why should Nintendo, of all companies, who makes the best video games, who, doesn't really get the love they deserve when it comes to third party, because you would rather buy third party on other systems, why should they be the ones to make their video games cheap for you ungrateful assholes, when for many years now, I think 20, 30 years, they were always the cheaper company. I don't mean video game, I mean their consoles were always cheaper. I think their video games used to be cheaper too, as well. They were always the most affordable. Did you forget that Nintendo Wii and the Nintendo Wii U were free to play online? And yet, where was the appreciation for that? So, I think what Nintendo is doing is they're commanding respect, but what they're also doing is they're basically saying to you guys out there who buy multiple consoles, you can either fucking just stick with our console and games for our system, or you're gonna have a tough time being able to get all the games that you want. We're not gonna make our games $20 or whatever, just so you're gonna also have enough money left behind to buy games on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. You understand? I hope that makes sense. I believe this is what Nintendo's doing, and I think it's brilliant. Alright, so let me put this in perspective for you guys. So let's say with Nintendo players only, they on average buy like 100 games for their Nintendo system in like the span of 3 years, right? Let's just say that. Versus the multi-console gamers who only buy 30 games for their Nintendo console because they also have a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox and a gaming PC for other third-party games. That's way less. And this is just random number. It's probably less than that. Maybe, I don't know what's the average number that a multi-console gamer, or what's the average number of Nintendo games that gets purchased by a multi-console gamer. It could be less than that. It could be like 10 or 15, while they're buying other games like freaking PlayStation and third-party games on their other systems. Because here's the thing. They can't afford to get every single Nintendo game, PlayStation game, and Xbox game, right? And that's why the people who bitch the most about these video game prices, they're not Nintendo fans. They're not people who only play on Nintendo. Okay, these are dumbass multi-console owners who, think they're cool because they own every console and they're above console wars or whatever, but really they're just a bunch of stupid asses is all they are. And these are the fucking idiots who are so entitled, so spoiled, they think that Nintendo owes them cheap games. They think that Nintendo needs to be the one to make their games cheap so they could be able to afford to buy even more PlayStation games, more third-party games, more Xbox games. And I guarantee you Nintendo is probably looking at that and saying, you know what, fuck you guys. Fuck you, straight up. Because you know what, we have 100 million people who play on our system, and maybe 70 million people right now. 70 million gamers out there who only play on Nintendo. That's just a guess, but I think it's a pretty good and educated guess. They have a huge fan base that only plays their games, so they're not going to cry about the prices of their games. So when you try to say they're anti-consumer, they hate their own fans or whatever, that's bullshit. Because they're Nintendo fans like me who only play on Nintendo. I do have an Xbox, but I don't play it as much anymore, and I never really bought that many games for it. But, people like me who only play on Nintendo, I can afford like 20 great games from Nintendo a year. I can afford that easily. Because I'm not over here buying up these other stupid games from PlayStation, Xbox, and whatever. you know? And if I'm only getting their exclusives and not third-party games, even more so. And these are the people who Nintendo is not pricing out. They are pricing out the stupid-ass multi-console gamers. And I don't really think it's necessarily that they are pricing you guys out. I think they're just making it much more difficult for you dumbasses to be able to buy games on the other systems. Nintendo's over here putting out, on average, 10 to 12 games per year. Good ones for that matter. And they're going to make those games cost a lot as well. And again, I think this is intentional, so it makes it difficult for you guys to purchase games on other systems. Hey, either you just stick with Nintendo and their games, or you're going to be missing out because you wanted to buy some stupid ass game on the PlayStation 5. So let me just break this down even further, alright? Let's just look at how many AAA, AA, and popular indie games sell in a year. Can't do all indie games because there's like 4,000 that are released every year, but like out of those 4,000 there's 12 popular indie games. So the least that all of these guys would sell when it comes to AAA games, there's at least 30 AAA games released a year. For AA, there's about 20, and for popular indie games, like 15. Now the average, however, for AAA games that are released a year, it's 40 games. For AA, about 30 games. And for popular indie titles, 25, okay? And then the most, it would be like 60 AAA games, 50 AA games, and 40 popular indie titles. Now, that is a shit ton of video games, and if you're planning on getting every single video game out there, well, good luck. And you're not even going to have the time to play all of those video games unless you somehow get paid to do so. Now, I'm going to just go with the averages here, alright? Let's just go with the... Actually, no. I'm going to be even more conservative for you guys. Let's just say there are 30 must-have AAA games, 20 must-have AA games, and at least 15 popular indie games, right? And we don't even really have to include the indie games, actually, because we know that indie games are cheaper. $20, $15. I don't know what's the most expensive indie game out there, but they're relatively cheap. So we could just go with AAA and AA games, right? 30 AAA games, 20 AA games. Let's just say there's a total of 50 of these games being released in 1 year, and these are games that, gamers want to play. Now, let's look at Nintendo. Nintendo, on average, every year, usually puts out 10 high-quality video games that are must-have video games. The least they've ever done, maybe 5 games per year, and the most is actually 15 games a year. Nintendo has a higher output of great video games than PlayStation, Xbox, and most third-party developers out there. But let's just take a conservative number once again. Let's just say 12 games for this situation. Let's say there's 12 great Nintendo video games coming out a year versus the 50 third-party PlayStation and Xbox video games that are coming out, right? For people who are only gaming on Nintendo and they plan on purchasing every single awesome Nintendo video game that drops each month, and they all happen to cost $70, well, that's a total of $840 total that they are spending on Nintendo's video games. That is totally affordable that should be affordable for anybody. I hope you're making more than $840 a year at your job. Now, for the multi-console gamers, there's 50 third-party games PlayStation games, Xbox games, and of course you throw in Nintendo as well. That's an extra 12, but let's not put Nintendo in this category. Let's just say it's just these 50 must-have games coming out from third-party PlayStation and Xbox. And instead of being priced at $70, let's just say they're priced at $60, right? Because, most of them do drop the price of their games after a while because they're not as good as Nintendo, but they do drop the price within a year or so. So let's just say $60, just a random number, right? That's less than $70. That's still a total of $3,000, okay? Now, again, some people might be able to afford to pay $3,000 a year. Is it ethical? Depends on how much you make at work. Depends on the cost of your bills and mortgage and all these other things, right? So, you can see why. You can see why multi-console gamers are the ones who cry the most about the price of video games, right? Because you're looking at $3,840 total that they would have to be spending a year on games alone. And, that is pretty hard to do. I'm not gonna lie. The thing is, though, Nintendo didn't force you idiots to go buy a PlayStation or an Xbox or, create your own little, gaming PC. They don't force you to buy these mediocre-ass third-party games. So, Nintendo has no problem pricing you guys out if you want to keep being stupid and spending your money on PlayStation and Xbox. And let me tell you something, if you bought a PlayStation 5 Pro, you are a complete dumbass. You are a fucking idiot. You need to give yourself a high five in the face. Alright? That's a fucking fact. And if you're one of these people crying about the price of the Switch 2, crying about the price of their video games, and you bought a fucking PlayStation 5 Pro, you need to shut the fuck up. You have no right to complain. You're a fucking idiot. Because guess what? That fucking piece of shit is not worth $700. You stupid asses who bought that fucking thing, and it's the only reason why most of y'all bought that piece of shit is for your own stupid YouTube channel, alright? RGT85, John from fucking Spawnwave, and look, John, he's usually a cool guy for the most part, but he did buy the PlayStation 5 Pro to fucking review it or whatever, and right now he's talking about being on the fence. He's on the fence to buy fucking Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, or just to buy one of them, because it's $40. Like, dude, I don't even want to hear that bullshit. I don't want to hear that bullshit from you. You fucking spent $700 on a fucking piece of shit like the PlayStation 5 Pro. Everybody can go back and watch that trailer when they first made the reveal of that piece of shit console. There was nothing impressive about that damn thing. Nothing. Alright? What a fucking piece of crap. Their like little before and after pictures or their side-by-side comparisons was pathetic. It was a fucking joke. It was like, really? I can't tell which one is better than the other. They had more shadows and shit on the PlayStation 5 Pro Edition. It was a joke. But, it didn't stop people from being stupid and buying it because they're just such fucking clowns. And these are the people who often bitch the most about the prices of video games, the prices of consoles. And it's like, look, idiot, you don't fucking have to buy a PlayStation. You only do it because you want to make PlayStation fans happy. You want them to watch your stupid channel and all that shit. It's the only reason why you fucking idiots do it, And it's like, are you really gamers, or are you just like attention seekers and just fucking professional YouTubers, That's a problem with a lot of you idiots right now. It's more about your YouTube channel than it is about gaming. Kind of like that pretentious piece of shit Angry Joe. That fucking cocksucker who pretended to be some champion for gamers or whatever, but really the scumbag just likes having money. That's it. But regardless, this is why Nintendo does what they do. This is why they make their games expensive. Because they know they have 70 million or so people who only play on their systems who are going to have no issue buying all of their video games. $840 total, that's nothing. I'm sure people would gladly pay $1,000 a year on all Nintendo exclusives, right? And you know, I do believe that another reason Nintendo makes their games pricey is because they want people to choose their games over third-party games. Even if those third-party games are on their system as well, I guarantee you Nintendo would much rather have you buying their games and not buying third-party games at all. I guarantee you, 100%, 1000%. And I think that's why we're not seeing that many third parties come to Nintendo. People are talking about that they didn't send out dev kits. What's going on? I think what's going on is that, you know, third parties have been screwing over Nintendo and Nintendo fans for the longest time. And Nintendo's pretty much like, you know what? Fuck them all. We're going to run them out of business. And we're seeing so many of these third parties, you know, they're struggling financially. They're canceling games, laying off workers or whatever. They're not doing well. Nintendo doesn't just want to like be dominant in hardware sales. They want to be dominant in software sales. And you know what? They want to be the last remaining video game company on the planet. They want to run everyone else out and be the primary source of gaming. And I think that's great. I think that's awesome. You guys won't have to bitch and moan anymore about the prices of their games or whatever, because look, you're going to be able to afford all the games they put out there. You can't tell me you can't afford to pay $700 to $1,000 a year on their awesome video games, right? You could only bitch about that right now because you also want to spend your money on PlayStation games, you know, trash like fucking Death Stranding, other third-party games, Xbox games, whatever. Now you could try to make the argument that, well, you know, Xbox, they got Game Pass, and you know, PC gaming, you know, we got Steam or whatever. We got these, you know, streaming services, and look, most of those, they for the most part, they all suck. You know why they suck? Because they don't have Nintendo's games. Okay, they don't have Nintendo's video games, so who cares? You're still missing out. And second, you're still paying monthly. You're still paying monthly for that shit. Nintendo, their NSO, I mean, it's like what, $50 for an entire year? For the Xbox Game Pass, you're paying $20 a month, and that's probably going to go up the more games they add. Every time they add a few more games, it goes up in price. What else? PlayStation's shitty ass service. I mean, their thing is a joke. I don't even know much about it, but I know it's a joke because everybody complains about it. So everybody who is a disgruntled PlayStation fan. But yeah, this is pretty much, I'm pretty sure this is why Nintendo makes their games expensive. This is why they do it. And again, it's not entirely that they want to price you guys out. They just want you dumbasses to only buy their games and nobody else's. But if they lower the price for their games, not only are they going to be losing profit, and that's going to hurt them in the long run, because then they can't, you know, they can't continue to grow organically as a company. That's gonna make it to where you're gonna be spending your money on other platforms. They don't want that. You think Nintendo really wants you guys to be spending your money on PlayStation and, you know, other third-party video games? No, they are the top dog. Okay? You only buy Nintendo products and that's it. If not, you're gonna miss out, and that's your problem. It's not their problem. They got 70 million strong who are willing to buy their games only. Okay? Right now, I think Nintendo is dealing the final blow on everybody else right now. You know, you spend money on our console and our games only. Fuck Sony, fuck Xbox, fuck these third-party developers. Okay? I hope this makes sense. I hope a lot of people watch this and realize, yeah, that makes sense. That really does make sense. It's not that Nintendo hates their fans, because their fans don't have an issue with this. They're going to buy these games and it's not going to be a problem. And the fucking idiots who are going to cry about it and calling the consumers, corporate bootlickers, are either the idiots who don't like Nintendo and don't buy their stuff, or it's the dumbass multi-console gamers who, want Nintendo to be the ones to make their games cheap so they could continue buying PlayStation games, Xbox games. They're not doing that anymore. Nintendo's not doing that anymore, and they don't need to do that. And that's, here's the thing. The reason these other guys are raising their prices as well, it's because they legitimately, have to, because they spend millions and millions of dollars on fucking voice actors, voice acting, cinematics, and trying to make their game, photorealistic and everything. But their games suck and they're not fun to play. So, the problem is with these other guys is that they prioritize the wrong thing when it comes to video games. Nintendo's the only one who's really smart when it comes to making great video games. And you can cry all you want saying, oh, it's not fair, they should make their games cheap. No. Why the hell should they? So you dumb assholes can continue spending your money on these other shitty ass games? Fuck you. Nintendo has a right to say, fuck you. We are going to continue making great games, and we're going to continue making them expensive. And if you want to miss out, that is your problem. No one's forcing you to go buy a stupid ass PlayStation 5, an Xbox, and a PC gaming console, or build your own PC gaming system. They're not forcing you to do that, okay? You're being a dumbass by buying these other fucking systems you don't need. Like I said, you bought a PlayStation 5 Pro, you need to shut the fuck up. You want to get all Nintendo's best video games? You can start by selling off that piece of shit, selling off whatever mediocre game you bought for it, selling whatever games other third-party games you bought out there because you just want to have a collection to brag about. And you can use all that money to buy the best video games on the best system. That is the Nintendo Switch 2 and the original Nintendo Switch. Both are great, okay? So I hope you guys understand how Nintendo thinks now, and I hope you reconsider, your life choices, and you decide, you know what? I want to have the best gaming experience. I'm just going to have to only buy Nintendo stuff, Nintendo products only. Only buy Nintendo systems, only buy Nintendo games, alright? I guarantee you can afford it, and you're going to be a part of the greatest ecosystem of gaming that there is. Right now, I am having a great time playing Kirby, Donkey Kong, Mario. I mean, I'm playing so much right now. There's so many great games. I just can't get enough of it. I play some third party too. Cyberpunk is great on the Switch. But for the most part, I'm going to continue just buying Nintendo games only. Games that are exclusive Nintendo. I'm not going to be buying any more Xbox games, which I really hadn't. I have not bought any shitty ass PlayStation games for that matter. I've never spent a single dollar on any PlayStation games, so yeah. Some third-party games I might get, but for the most part, 99% of my games are going to be Nintendo games. And I'm going to have no issue paying $1,000. So anyways, to my subscribers, to anyone who discovers this video, feel free to leave your comments, whether you agree or disagree. I can't wait to hear from other people about this. I would like to hear opposing arguments, if you will. But regardless, leave your thoughts. However, before I leave, I gotta promote one of my favorite Nintendo fanboys out there, and that's Retro Fusion Gaming. Retro Fusion Gaming, this is a living legend, a true badass in the world of YouTube. There is no other better YouTuber right now than Retro Fusion Gaming. This guy makes some of the coolest YouTube shorts on the planet. If you have not seen any of this man's videos, you need to go check him out right now. Retro Fusion Gaming. In the word fusion, it's a Z, not an S, so it's Retro Fusion Gaming. This dude is a freaking legend. I am not even kidding. I'm not over exaggerating. I'm not trying to be funny. It's the damn truth, okay? He talks in a really cool-ass Southern accent. Really like that. Really wish I had that. He delivers his lines perfectly, executes his videos flawlessly. Guy's a badass. He's a legend. And you know what? Best thing about him is that he pisses a lot of people off, not because he's trying to troll, but because he speaks facts. He speaks facts, and he's really good at offending lots of people, and he don't even use any kind of vulgarity, foul language, or anything like that. He's not foul-mouthed in any way. I've never heard him say a single cuss word ever in any of his videos, and there are a lot. And yeah, he does such a legendary job of just delivering these videos, delivering his messages and whatnot. I couldn't recommend him enough. This guy's a freaking badass, and he deserves way more subscribers than he has. I would say this guy deserves 1 million subscribers. Not kidding. This dude is a freaking legend. I can't believe people hadn't heard of him. I can't believe that he only has a few thousand. That is complete bullshit. He deserves way more than that. Okay? I'm not overrating or overhyping this, guys. If you're new to this video, first of all, subscribe and like my video. Second, go check out Retro Fusion Gaming, alright? Retro Fusion Gaming is a freaking beast. This dude is the realest on the planet. He delivers the facts. He thinks for himself. He's not a sheep. I think for myself as well, and I'm also not a sheep. And me and him somehow come to the same conclusion that Nintendo's the best gaming company in the whole freaking world. Alright? Now that's not the only reason I like the guy. There are some disagreements, slight disagreements. But you know what? He's so freaking cool. It's hard not to like him. There's nobody else out there like Retro Fusion Gaming. This dude's awesome. He's the best. Please check him out. Please do not miss out on the great content that this guy puts out on a daily basis, or a weekly basis for that matter. If he had more subscribers, I think he would be putting out videos on the daily. And so that it is my mission right now to help get this man 1 million subscribers. Or at the very least 10,000 or 100,000 subscribers for that matter, because he really deserves it. Alright? So, I'm hoping to get more people to follow this guy, because I think he delivers some of the best messages out there. He seems to have a high IQ, unlike most people in the gaming space these days. He ain't a grifter. He ain't trying to grow his channel, although I do want it to grow. He's just out here spitting truths and doing it better, even better than I do most times. So please, check out Retro Fusion Gaming here on YouTube. Again, that's Retro, the word fusion, but with a Z instead of an S, alright? That's really important because you just type Retro Fusion Gaming and you're going to find anybody else but him. So you got to make sure that it's Retro Fusion with a Z in the word fusion, Retro Fusion Gaming. Check him out. If you don't, you're going to regret it. You're missing out, okay? You're definitely missing out, especially if you're a Nintendo fanboy like me. If you're a Nintendo fanboy, you would definitely like this man's content, alright? So, that being said, check out Retro Fusion Gaming. He's the freaking best.